This first Western States 100 in 1977 was hastily organized by riders, not runners. There was no consultation with the existing well-established ultra-running sport at the time. Practices were put into place that mostly mirrored the endurance horse sport, such as mandatory medical checks. The event would be held with nearly 200 riders and horses also competing on the course at the same time as the runners. The day would turn out to be perhaps the hottest ever for the historic race, for the course and its profile. It was remarked, "We try to mark the trail, but the bears keep destroying the markings."
I'm sorry, what?
1977 was the only year that the run was held concurrently with the ride. It turned out to be the hottest day of the year, reaching about 115 degrees. After a morning weigh-in completed by Dr. Lind, 16 runners started at 4 a.m. with an hour head start on 183 riders who started at 5 a.m. in waves. The runners were mostly dressed in nylon shorts, t-shirts, windbreakers, and running shoes. Most of them started out carrying flashlights. Gonzalez did not carry a flashlight and only wore a singlet, a plaid button-down shirt, and Speedo swimming shorts. He never wore socks when he ran, and did not during the 1977 race. Reese commented, "I started from Squaw Valley, and the unfolding of many lessons. First was the arduous effort required to keep moving. The heat became intense and stifled breathing. The water was scarce. At one stretch, in 100+ degrees heat, I was 4 hours without water." Gonzalez did not carry anything with him. No food or water. He held back his pace early on, concerned about how the heat would affect him. Since the checkpoints were far apart, he had to drink and water wherever he could find it. He drank out of a small mountain mud spring with a horse. Later, that same horse dropped a dump in front of him and barely missed his face. The narrow sections of the course became crowded with horses and runners. If a runner or rider wanted to pass, they would yell, "Trail." Nearly half of the field dropped out by Robinson Flat at mile 33. When Gonzalez arrived at Robinson Flat, he was feeling good and decided not to stop there as Ainsley had suggested and go on to run the entire race. He then started to catch up and pass runners. At mile 48, Gonzalez caught up with cowman Shirk, who was sitting down by the trail and not looking very good, along with Dick Mendenhall of Oklahoma City. They both looked at him and said, "Whoever you are, keep going. You have a chance to win." Shirk and Mendenhall dropped out at last chance. Both Cowman and Mendenhall were suffering from dehydration. Cowman had lost an astonishing 20 pounds during the run, going from 204 pounds to 184. Mendenhall had lost 15 pounds. Gonzalez moved into first place with a fire now in his belly. During that year, there were not too many spectators along the course, but Gonzalez would always wave, stop, and shake their hand. Word got out that he was coming, and more came out to greet him. 3 more runners were out of the race at Michigan Bluff at 62 miles because of the terrific heat.
You're a loser.
That left just 3 runners, Gonzalez and the 2 veterans, Mattei and Paffenbarger. At about mile 64, Gonzalez had to step over horses that were exhausted, laying in the trail. He was also really struggling at that point. As he was stumbling along without water, he came upon an old rancher sitting by his camper with his dog. The old man thought that Gonzalez was crazy and offered him 2 cold beers, which he gladly drank. Feeling greatly revived, Gonzalez continued on his run toward Forest Hill. At Forest Hill, in dire straits without water again, he was experiencing hallucinations. He went up to a random house, grabbed a hose, and with his chapped lips drank some warm water. But at some point, they became separated in the dark, and Gonzalez became lost for a couple hours in American River Canyon. Trail markings were few, yellow ribbons wrapped around trees, but they were easy to miss in the dark. He screamed for help. "Help me!" And finally found his way back to the familiar trail in the dark and made his way the rest of the way to the fairgrounds finish in Auburn with plenty of energy. He could hear an announcement over the loudspeaker informing everyone that the first runner was arriving. Many of the spectators still didn't even know that there were runners on the course. Gonzalez became the first official Western States 100 finisher in history and established the course record in 22 hours, 57 minutes. Roby greeted him holding a cigar. A full stadium of riders and spectators cheered his finish. Ainsley was surprised to see him win. For Gonzalez, it was a dream come true.
But I wanted to be a champion that had to do with running. I mean, I dreamed of it day and night for years.